Stay in your lane. We are not the same. We cannot explain things about to change. Cause we run the game. Cause we run the game.
Howdy doody, everybody. Welcome back to another event from your brothers from the New Form community. My name is Brandon Groce, and we have with us Cole Jan and our brother from another mother in another place. We have Jonathan from the Wix family. What's going on, Jonathan? How are you feeling?
Awesome. Thank you for having me, and good luck saying my name. Full name.
The last name, yeah.
Listen, I literally asked some of the Wix team, and they were like, just Jonathan, just say Jonathan. We also have, I have a piece of paper with your name written down with several different pronunciations, and I tried from last night to this morning. So how do you pronounce what is your full name, my man? Just so you can enlighten all of us.
Full name is Jonathan Tsodikovitch.
All right, so I wasn't off. Almog was just like, I don't know. I was on it. I was like, listen, Almog, I've been practicing all night. I think I got it. But I digress. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are here to listen about or to the beautiful words of Jonathan, really what he does at Wix Studio, and also to share with us who are watching here. If you guys have come to our past New Form events, we know that, or you guys know that we are showing you guys how to create amazing things on the internet without code, and even using Figma to bring your amazing projects to life with the click of a button. So today Jonathan is going to showcase a little bit more in depth than we have in the past how to utilize the Figma to Wix Studio plugin and make your life that much easier. So Jonathan, I don't know where you want to start. Actually, I lied. I got one more house cleaning item today before we jump to you. Ladies and gentlemen, also, there's still 1 week left in our New Form Community Design Challenge. So if you guys are looking to win any amount of money within our $2,000 prize pool for making an amazing Wix Studio or any sort of design related to our design theme, go to newform.community to check out what our challenge is this month. It is space related, and get in some work with a week left. So, all right, guys, Jonathan, what do we have? What do you have in store for us today? Tell us a little bit about your background, and then I'll leave it to you to tell me when you're going to share a screen, and we'll dive in there.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I'm Jonathan with a long last name. I'm working as a product manager at Wix Studio and at Wix in general for almost 4 years now. So that's quite a while. I've been here since the Wix Studio launch. I've been working on some very exciting features and some exciting features to come very soon. But today we're going to be focusing on the Figma plugin and how to get your design from Figma to Wix Studio. Fun fact, I was a UX designer before I became a product manager. So I came from kind of this design world, and it's all familiar to me, and that's why I'm very aesthetic at my work and when I build websites. So hopefully today I'll be able to answer a lot of Wix Studio and Figma questions, give a lot of tips and tricks on transferring your designs from Figma, what's the best way, and we can go over the structure and everything, and kind of continue from that point, and building on Wix Studio some cool interactions maybe, or adjusting on lower breakpoints, just to see how we can continue from that point when your design is ready. So that's kind of
We're looking
Awesome.
forward to it.
we can share the screen and then we can start.
All right, cool. Well, screen is shared, my friend. And ladies and gentlemen, as Jonathan is getting into the nitty gritty here, I'm going to be nice and quiet because I'm also learning. But I also wanted to let you guys know as we're going through things, and I myself will have questions, probably Cole as well. But if you guys have questions while you're watching, please drop them in the live chat. Me and Cole will hold on to them as Jonathan is going through everything, and we will jump into or add questions into our whole workshop that we're going through here to get your questions on really what we're looking at. So Jonathan, take the reins.
Perfect.
Take it away.
Thank you. So I'm going to be building on this monitor right here, and because I just wanted to see you guys over this one, so I'm just going to be looking here. This is the Wix Studio platform. I see now that I might want to make this a little bigger, so I'm just going to zoom in so you can see the panels. because this is also showing on Instagram on your phone, so you should see the panels, and make this Figma also a little bit bigger, like that. Today we're going to be converting, we're transferring this Figma design that I have here, which is kind of a clothing store, to Wix Studio. And I'll guide you through all the way. And if you have questions on something particular, just cut me and ask. I just want to make things clear, because I can keep on talking like for 2 and 3 hours nonstop. So just let's know when to
good,
stop.
man.
Yeah. All right. So first of all, the Figma plugin, where it can be found. So down here in the Figma new UI, under plugins and widgets, it was moved from the top bar down here. You can search for Wix Studio, and you're going to find the plugin Figma 2 Wix Studio. Now, I have 2 plugins here. That's because we have one for employees, and that's where we're testing things and QAing before we push to the public version, so you guys don't have any issues or encounter any bugs, hopefully. So we're going to be using that one today, just because I'm from my employee account. And my design here is a long top level frame with a lot of frames inside. Now, if we look at the layers panel, we can see that we have these frames right here, divided as we would want them in Wix Studio to become sections. So although we will support the elements transferring from Figma, even if they're not inside a frame, if they're just scattered around your artboard or your big and long frame, which is your page, we will support that, but that's where we'll try to find how to create the sections for you. So sometimes we do a good job, and sometimes it's not necessarily what you were looking for. So it's better to have things organized in Figma already, as you would expect to have in Wix Studio. So it will just save you time instead of going all over this in Wix Studio again. So that's why I have everything organized like this in frames. So each of these frames is going to become a section. Okay, and this is a long section. That's because I'm planning ahead to have a sticky section in my website. And I'm going to do kind of a quick overview of how sticky works. Is basically once this element, that's the one we're going to set to be sticky. Once this element reaches the top of my viewport, it's going to stick there, and all the elements following it and the other section are just going to overlap it when we scroll the website. So that's why this is so long here with a lot of white space, because all these elements are going to overlap this, like that. This is the Figma auto layout jumping, but you can imagine that, and we will see that in a minute or two. Now, it's important to say that you don't necessarily have to have auto layout in Figma when transferring your designs, but it will help you. It will keep things more organized and even create stacks for you. Stacks in Wix Studio are similar to auto layout in Figma. So it kind of creates this relationship between the elements and keeps them together. And of course, you can play with the direction of the layout on different breakpoints as well. And we'll see that as well. Now, in the hero section here, there's not much to it. We have just an image with another frame inside, which is with this kind of a cutoff to see this woman, a few text elements, and it's just centered here in the center of this hero. After that, we have a more interesting section. That's where we have elements overflowing. So if I can show you, yeah, here we have some elements overflowing the artboard, as you can see. If I'll unclip this, or no, it's actually this auto layout, or it's the whole frame. Yeah, there it is. So if I unclip the content, you can see that we have a few elements overflowing the whole artboard. And that's because I want to plan ahead that this section here, these elements will scroll when we scroll the website, they will move, they will animate, and it's really, really easy to implement without code, right? We're not going to be touching code today. Everything's going to be done without code. So I'm going to continue clicking this content. And the next one is just another frame with a fill color. So my suggestion is when you want to apply a background color, please do it on the frame's fill. And I know a lot of you guys put a rectangle, kind of a shape just in the background, because visually it does represent the background color. But sometimes it's difficult for us to say whether you wanted a shape there, an SVG shape, or this is your background color of the section or of the container. So to be more precise, just select the frame and give it a fill color from here. I know I'm saying a lot of basic stuff here, but these are tips to get the better result in Wix Studio. And you'll be surprised, but a lot of people don't necessarily work like that. And that's fine because everyone has their own flow. So these are not in auto layout. These are just floating here inside this frame right here, but there is an auto layout on them. So there's a button, an image, and a text inside this vertical auto layout. And this is going to become a stack in Wix Studio. Now, the button. How to create a button in Figma is to create a frame with a text element inside. And there's a lot of ways to create buttons, and Figma uses very basic elements like the text, frame, shape, and image. Like that's basically what you have in Figma, and you create a website with all of this, with just these few elements. And in Wix Studio, there's much, much more to it, right? These elements have to actually be functional. So this button needs to function. You need to be able to connect a link to it. You need to be able to give it a hover effect. So in Figma, it doesn't have to be with all these semantics and to function because it's just visually here and it's beautiful and very nice. But in Wix Studio, that's where we get to the functioning part where you create web elements. So yeah, to create a button, you create a frame and a text inside. This frame can have a fill color or a stroke or any design. If you want a button without any design, just the text, you can either keep a text element, a regular text element, and connect a link to it in Wix Studio, or create a frame with a text inside, but don't design it. And then the whole area of this frame is going to be clickable. It's going to become a button in Wix Studio. All right. So let's dive in and start building or start converting this design to an actual website. I'm going to open the Figma plugin, this one. First thing you're going to see is this screen. If it's your first time using the plugin, you won't see the skip setup because we want you to understand what is necessary to set up before you start. And I'll do it. It's very quick. So first of all, you're required to connect your Figma file to a Wix Studio website. How can you do that is or copy this URL if you're working on the browser, or if you're working in the desktop app, you can also click Command L or Control L. It copies the URL. And then open a Wix Studio website. It can be a blank website or it can be an existing website with existing design. And to connect your website to the Figma plugin, it's right over here in Tools, Import from Figma. All right, once you click this, you're going to see this new panel being added to your side panel. And it's now here permanently on this website until you want to disable the Figma connection. And you just paste the link over here in the Figma file and click Connect. If this is your first time connecting, you'll be transferred to a new tab asking to allow the access for Figma and Wix Studio. It's a basics tab that requires you to allow this connection. So you just allow and then come back here and continue the process. All right, so once this is connected, I already used my Figma file, and that's why I see here a preview, but we're gonna ignore it for now, and we're just gonna go back to our Figma. I'm done, so I'm gonna click next. When I get to this screen, this is a suggestion, and it's an important suggestion because we really suggest to have the editing size in Wix Studio and the Figma frame identical in terms of the width, the size of them. So that's in order to get a one-to-one result. So if I select this top level frame, I can see the width over here, it's 1280, and my Wix Studio size is also 1280. So I'm good. It's fine, it matches. But to change it, you can click here and change it to, for example, 1440, and your canvas is going to become bigger. But we're going to leave it on 1280. All right. If you forgot to do this step, you will be also notified here that the size does not match, and you have a shortcut to match the size. So you'll be able to click, and we will match it for you. But we suggest to do it before importing anything, so don't forget it. Now let's start exporting. All right. So in this screen, this is kind of the home page of the plugin. We have the wireframes that you can use. So if I click on this, we'll see a few wireframe kits. These are Figma files that you can just click on, and you'll be transferred to the file page. Over here, you can download and start working with these files. It's wireframes, so they are built in a good and very easy and intuitive way, but you can inject your content into them and of course change the design. And that's for an easy start. But we're going to start with our design and not the wireframes. So first things first is the recommended step, and that's exporting the styles. And exporting the styles is a recommended step because we want to have the typography and colors already set in our Wix Studio website when we import the elements. That way, when you import the elements, they can be connected to those styles. And you'll be able to really quickly change them if any changes are required in your website. For example, your client asks to change all the buttons from green to blue. You don't need to go one by one and change them. You can just hop on here, select the green or any color that is connected to the buttons, change it, and it will change globally all around the website for all elements connected to this style. So it's kind of similar to the local styles we have in Figma if you're using any local styles. Okay, so we'll click on that. And when exporting, make sure you're selecting all the pages of your website, not to miss any style, any typography, or any color. So I just have a one pager here, so I'm good to go. And this is a quick preview of the styles that are going to be imported. We can click Export Styles, jump over to Wix Studio, open the panel, and refresh import. Don't forget to refresh the import. It happened to me a lot when I didn't refresh the import, and I'm like, wait, didn't I click export? Came back here. Oh yeah, I didn't refresh. Okay. So once we refresh this, we can see a preview. Now you can see here that I'm missing two fonts. That's where we're checking whether you have the fonts in your Wix account. So if you don't have the fonts, please upload them because it may and will break some designs because different font families are different widths and different heights. So your design will break and the text will wrap where it's not meant to wrap. So make sure you have the fonts before you import your designs, okay? I have these fonts, but they're called differently. So it's okay on my side. I'm just gonna continue, okay? I'm gonna apply the styles to site. And once again, you're asked, are you sure you want to continue without the missing fonts? Yes, in our case, I am sure. And once we apply this, we can see that the colors changed to our colors from the design, from our Figma, and also the theme fonts and theme text. This is where you can see the size and the fonts that are used, okay, that you're going to be using. All right, so we're good to go in terms of styles. We can hop back to our Figma and click back and move to export frame. Right here, when we export the frame, we can see a quick preview of what is selected right now and what we're exporting, and also see the size of the frame. Export and move back to Wix Studio. Click refresh once again, and there's going to be a quick refresh, and we can import this whole page. Now, when importing a whole page to Wix Studio, it's going to be created in a new page, not your current page. So, for example, I'm on the home page right now. This imported page is going to be created as a new one. And if I'm importing a section, it will use the existing page that I'm on and add a new section to it. All right, so right now we have this preview of what we are importing to Wix Studio. And down here, before we click Add to Site, we can choose how we would like to import this element as. So we exported a frame. Okay, a frame can be anything. So here we're checking what this frame is most suitable to be. So right now it's a page because it was a top level frame. But we can also specify that maybe this is a section. I meant to import a section or a container. Okay, so here you change the actual web element. In our case, we're just going to go with page and click Add to Site. You'll see this kind of loader with all these elements being created behind the scenes. And this is my time to continue talking because we're waiting until it's created. So what's happening here is basically we create all the elements for you. We design all the elements in terms of colors, size, properties like borders or backgrounds, and upload all the media files as well. So you don't need to upload all the images and SVGs. Everything is uploaded for you. So that's what's happening behind the scenes right now. And a few tips on importing is first one is importing a page takes the longest. Importing a container is the fastest. Importing a section is the most precise way to work on your website. We're finished importing the page and we're automatically transferred to the new page, as you can see. So you have home, which is completely blank, and the main page, which I just imported. Okay, I'm going to continue with the tips. It's having more media files in your design makes the process a bit longer because we need to upload all these images to the media manager, and they are saved in your site's media manager. So if we open the media manager and go to site files, you will see all the images that were used in your Figma. Okay, they're all here. Brandon, I can hear myself twice. So.
You can? Okay, hold on one second.
Yeah.
That
Okay.
should not be the case, but did that just start happening?
Yes.
Okay. I'll take care of it.
Okay, I'm going to continue and try to focus. All right, so this is the result, the Figma import result. Let's see what we have here. Let's open the layers panel and see what we have. So we have a few sections. The first one, as you can see, is very identical to what we had in Figma. So this is the Figma frame, this whole frame, and we also have this whole section right here with all these elements. Something that I want to mention is that headers and footers are not automatically created yet. We know that we need to work on it, and but it's easy to create one out of them. So for example, if you imported this and you want this as a header, no problem, just use the existing header or create a new one, create a new section and convert it to a header, or just delete these elements, take this over here, drag it to your header, and now this is your header. Okay, I'm also gonna make it scroll with our site, overlap the next section, and reduce this opacity right here. Okay, so there we go. Now we have this as the header, and it will repeat itself on all pages in Wix Studio. This is a container with a few elements inside, with our text here. Of course, everything is scaling proportionally. So we see that even on tablet, it looks kind of nice. The images are loading right here. It looks good. It looks exactly as our Figma. All right, so from here, we can continue and adjust things on desktop and continue working on the lower breakpoints as well. So for example, here, instead of moving all my elements to the footer, I'm just gonna delete the existing footer and select this section, right click, and set as global footer. All right, this is also a quick way of creating a new global section. It can be a footer header or a regular section as well. All these global sections are going to repeat themselves on multiple pages, and it's up to you to choose on which. All right, so I see here this is a bit misplaced for some reason. So I will align these items just like, oh, it's this one. I'm going to align this to the top. There we go. This is a horizontal stack, and stack is once again a similar tool to auto layout in Figma. As you can see, you can adjust the spacing right here between the elements. So this is a horizontal one, and we have a vertical one inside here. Okay, so that's also something you can plan ahead in Figma and have your time saved in Wix Studio. Any questions up until now? Because I'm just, shooting everything and going straight away.
No, you're good. And I figured out why you heard yourself twice. My microphone is just really hot, and so I have you really loud in my ear, and it's like bouncing right into the microphone. So I apologize. But we did have one question which I really quickly answered in the chat. But a lot of people were asking. First off, we love the fact that you're giving the tips of like the best optimal way to bring your Figma project into Wix Studio. Like I myself didn't even realize, like, all right, do the assets first, then try to pull everything in, and maybe a section actually pulls in and optimizes everything better than actually just trying to pull in the page. So great tip. We had a very simple question, but a lot of people are asking, do I have to do my work in Figma and then press a button to pull it into Wix Studio? The answer is obvious, but I'll let you take that one.
Okay, so the answer is obvious. It's no, not necessarily. Wix Studio is totally a drag and drop environment, so you can just drag your elements from the add panel. We have tons of categories here for your elements. We have the quick add panel for the basic elements that you can use, and you can just drag, for example, a button and put it anywhere you want. So from me talking to a lot of our users, many of them just design here, just design in Wix Studio. They have kind of a sketch, a rough sketch, or even those who do use Figma or any other design softwares and prefer having like pixel perfect control over their design. They're just looking at the design software, checking the distances and the sizes, and creating the elements here. It's very, very easy and simple. This plugin that we're showing right now is just to save time for those who do want to just convert their designs from the existing designs in Figma to Wix Studio quickly. But of course, once you build everything from scratch in Wix Studio, you also have more control over the layout and everything. And the process is kind of different because you're building from blank. So maybe you want to start from the structure. Maybe you want to apply a grid first or something before adding the actual elements. So that's really up to you and your preferred process of creating the website.
Awesome. We had a question over on my end, and it's about prototyping on Figma. So if you were to prototype on Figma and then import your design to Wix Studio, the question was, do those prototypes or do those animations in Figma come with you to Wix Studio?
I wish.
Me too.
Prototyping in Figma is tricky. You can do amazing prototypes in Figma, but unfortunately, the way we do the interactions and actual web interactions, unlike Figma, is different. That's why it's very different. It's very difficult for us to kind of create something out of this prototype. Until some extent, we can do that. For example, things that scroll with you on Figma, you can do, right? Keep while scrolling or something like that. There's an option.
Oh,
so
yeah.
that's something we can do here, which is fixed position.
Yeah.
Sticky. It's similar. So that's something we can transfer and support.
Okay.
But the prototypes themselves are not supported, not at least for now. But it's very, very easy in Wix Studio, and I'll show you how to create these animations and interactions. We're going to do a few right now.
Awesome. Looking forward to it.
Cool.
Let's do it.
So let's start with the first one. Let's start with the entrance animation. We have this container right here, and on the right-hand side in the inspector panel, this is the inspector panel where I see all the properties of my selected element. I have this animations and effects tab. So if I select this, I can see all the possible triggers for the animation. I have the entrance, hover, click, scroll, loop, and mouse effect. So the entrance is very straightforward. Once this element enters the viewport, something's going to happen, something's going to animate. The other ones are hover and click, also straightforward. Scroll is when you're scrolling your website and this element reaches a certain point, something will happen, whether on this element or on another element. We're going to do all of that together, don't worry. Loop, also it's very straightforward. It's just a loop animation, something that, for example, you see elements breathing and floating in websites. This is the way to go in loop. And mouse effect is based on your cursor's position. Elements can move, skew, and do crazy stuff. So when you're moving your cursor, a lot of elements can move with it or follow it even. So that's the overview on the interactions here. We're going to do the entrance animation on this container. So we're going to choose if you have a few presets here that we can customize. We're going to go with reveal, and down here we can adjust the animation. I'm going to click on that, and we can see that we have direction, which is by default from bottom. We have the duration, delay, and easing off the animation. So we can customize all this. So let's, for example, change the duration to 1 second. We can either click preview to see how it's going to animate and enter, or we can click the actual preview up here of the whole website and see also how this behaves. Now, this preview will give you a preview of your live website. So if you have any code connected, or you have scroll interactions, or a lot of elements animating, everything will be shown here as you scroll. So this is kind of your real live website, just in a smaller screen. So keep that in mind. This is a smaller screen. So if you open your live website on like a big monitor like mine, which is very, very big, so things might look a bit different or scaled up. Depends on how you customize your elements or set the responsive behavior to be. All right, so that's the entrance animation. It will continue scaling until we stop this element from scaling, and this can be easily done here in the responsive behaviors dropdown. It's everything from Figma will by default come scale proportionally. So you can change the elements from here. You have relative width, fixed size, stretch, which will stretch this whole container on my section, and it's not what I want to do right now. So we can change this to fixed, and you'll see that the size is now fixed as on desktop. So for example, here it doesn't work very well. It looks weird. If you want to set or limit the text from scaling, you would do that or from the global styles right here, and for example, edit this text and disable this scale, which will disable the scale of all the elements connected to this style. Or if you want to add a minimum or maximum size to the scale. So for example, it will scale, but it will not go lower than a specific font size. You can also do that from here. You just add a minimum font size to the scaling text. So these are the global styles, but you can also do that on specific elements if you choose them and go to the inspector panel. You have all the properties here as well, okay? Now, next thing is this section right here. This is the section that I wanted to add the scroll animation to. And how we're gonna do that is by, first of all, combining all of these elements into a stack or a container, doesn't really matter. So I'm gonna select all these elements, even the ones that are out of my but let's see how the animation area works. So the red indicator indicates the center of my viewport. And where am I right now in the viewport, and where, according to my element, the trigger element, the section. So I'm scrolling down and I see that once I reach 50% right here, this is where my section is in the center of my viewport. This is where the animation starts. But I can go ahead and tell it, okay, I want this to start earlier than that. So I'm gonna do change the animation to about, what is this, 13%. You can also click on this. That's a nice tip that I was not aware of. You can click on this and input some value to be more precise. So if we put it like this, the animation is gonna start from the beginning of when I land on the website, because this section is already visible. And the 100% is where my element leaves the viewport on top. All right, any questions about this? I guess not. I hope this was clear, and that's why we don't have questions.
No, sorry. There's a lot that we're working on in the back. There are questions, but there's also
Okay.
with the 3 streams. I'm like trying to what's we call it? Just manage them all.
Juggle them all.
First off, we do have about 20 more minutes, and I want to say everybody on Instagram, if you guys already, there's about like 60 of you guys, or at least on my side. I don't know how many is on Cole's side. But we are also streaming this on YouTube. If we forever get cut off at the 1 hour mark and we're still going, go to type in on YouTube Newform and Brandon Groce, and you guys will be able to find the remainder of the stream. And if you also want to watch the recording, you guys can watch it there. But if you want to actually know where you're going, go to newform.community. If you're already not part of our community, sign up, and all the links will be in our community announcements. Or if you're on Instagram, just put in join in the live chat and you'll get an automatic DM on where to go.
Yeah.
We did have a couple questions, actually. I was saving them because there was actually quite a little bit. It was hard to capture them all. Instagram pushes all the chats really fast, especially when people are leaving and joining too. Let me scroll back up here. And Cole, while I'm looking, if you have any on hand while I scroll back up, that would be awesome.
Yeah. No, it doesn't look like we got too many over here.
Oh, I do have one, but it wasn't pertain to what exactly you were discussing. I think really everybody is just, a lot of the people here, they're dabbling, new to Wix Studio. A lot of people are opening up accounts, and they're really just trying to understand. Figma is their main tool of choice, and they're really just trying to understand the bridge that you're bringing here today. So everybody's kind of either asking how to transition, and their questions are being answered, or there's a couple people that are asking about, hey, I have a Wix Classic site. This Wix Studio stuff looks cool. How the hell do I get over? And I know the answer is probably going to be a little bit sad, but I'll let you carry that.
Thanks. I'll deal with the sad stuff.
Yeah. I can answer, but this is your show today, Jonathan.
Okay, so unfortunately, right now, you can't transfer directly a Wix website to Wix Studio, but I've heard of workarounds, very creative workarounds, such as importing or exporting an HTML to Figma, from Wix to Figma, which is a plugin that does that, and then using the Figma to Wix Studio plugin to import that design to Wix Studio. It was very creative when I first heard of it. I was impressed. But I just want to say that these are kind of 2 connections that you're doing, and with 2 new tools. So things might go wrong, and the import might not be perfect as you expect it to be. Okay, and I'm not aware which even plugin you're using to export the HTML to Figma, but there's a lot of those. So maybe that will help you in some cases, but if your website is complex, so I think that it's better to just build it on Wix Studio directly. But this is something we do know, which is a big request, and we're working on it. We're working on it, but just cannot share the ETA.
Fair enough.
Okay. Hopefully that was not too sad.
No, it wasn't too
All right. Cool. So meanwhile, I added the same scroll interaction to this second section, just to the opposite direction. So we have these 2 sections right here scrolling to opposite directions, which gives kind of a more alive feeling to the website, and it looks nice. Let's continue to this section right here. So right now, these elements are kind of floating in space. They're just in a regular section, and if I would like to arrange them differently on mobile, I can do that manually, just by placing them one below another, or manually, but with a grid, the help of a grid. So we have this, we have two types of grids in Wix Studio. The first one is the section grid, and the second one is the CSS grid, which is more advanced because you have to deal with actual columns, rows, and the advanced sizing options of those columns and rows. It's a very cool tool. I love it because it gives you the full flexibility to do anything you want with your layout, but you need to know your way around with it. You need to learn it a little bit. There is a learning curve to it. But the section grid is much simpler, but it will kind of create this gritty and boxy feeling in your design, in your section. But here it's a very, very simple layout. So we can select the section. We have the presets of those grids over here on the right-hand side, or in this drop down in the floating panel. All right. So here we can see that there are 3 columns, and we can apply this 3-column layout on top of our design. So all the elements that are already placed here, they're just going to be reparented into one of these cells that this grid creates. So you can see when we apply the grid, these cells are created and become the new parents of these elements. Each cell is basically a container, and you can design each cell individually. You can give it a background color, you can give it a border, border width, corner radius, whatever you want. And this helps us to adjust the layout on lower breakpoints as well. That's why we use the grid. For here, here is an example on tablet. I can select the grid, the section grid, and switch this to rows, and then have the elements automatically one below another. But here, as you can see, the sizes are not fantastic. I'll need to change the text and the buttons and things like that. I want to show you another way of doing this, which you might find useful, is the AI, and I'm going to run it real quickly. I'm going to talk about it too much, but just to give you kind of an example and an intro to it. So there's 2 types of AI. There's desktop AI and mobile AI. So on tablet, this looks kind of nice, but on mobile, it looks too small. So we can select the section and run the mobile AI only. So that's what we're going to do. When you select the section, you'll see this responsive AI right here. And if you click on it, you can see generate mobile or generate all breakpoints. We're going to choose to go with mobile. Now, this is still in beta. We're still improving it and testing it and hearing a lot of feature requests and adding to it and fixing to get a better result. But for not too complex designs and where it doesn't have too many elements and it's kind of straightforward and you want to save yourself some time, this is a good approach. So here, once it's finished, you can see how it laid out my elements. They're just in a column, one under another. Maybe you want to change the size of these images, and you can do that easily. So I'm going to apply the design or discard it. We're going to apply it. And here we can simply change the size of the images. So like this, for example. Or let's first stack these. No, let's just change the size of these images like that. I'm doing this manually, but you can do it also from the inspector panel right here. All right, so right here we can, yeah, so what it does is adds also the padding. So you can see this green area right here. This is the padding of the section. So the mobile AI does not apply new layout tools on your elements. It just uses the existing elements that you already have and kind of relayouts them and changes the sizes, changes the responsive behavior sometime. So here you can see an example. This is wrap, and it was scaling. And if you run the AI on all the breakpoints, that's where it's gonna apply the layout tools based on your design. So whether it's a grid, a stack, it will apply these new elements and create it for you, and then also adjust it on lower breakpoints. So that's really up to you how you would like to use it. Once again, I would suggest to use it on more simple designs and not too complex. That's because you get better results there and it saves you some time. All right, let's continue to this section right here. This is where we want this to kind of overlap this section. And this is going to be sticky. All right, so this is a big section that we want maybe to cover the whole viewport height. So how we do that is in responsive behaviors, instead of scaling proportionally, where everything just scales proportionally, we want this to fill in the whole height. So that's fits to screen. And where did you go? There it is. Now it fits the whole height of my screen. And this gives a nice effect if you want this to be sticky. So let's change the position type to sticky. And if you remember when I explained what sticky is, when this element reaches the top of my viewport, which is here, it's going to stick and keep on scrolling with me. So anything that comes after will overlap it. So let's do a quick test right here. Preview. There we go. Okay, we're scrolling. We see the website, we're scrolling. We reach the section, it sticks. Now it's not moving anymore. It sticks, everything scrolls on top of it. And we reach the next section as you would initially. So that's a really, really nice effect. You can do it either on sections, containers, even elements. You can also do this kind of a pile-up effect. So if you have a few containers sticky, they can pile up like cards, one above another. So that's kind of cool. And how can we adjust more elements on lower breakpoints is even with the use of the stack. So for example, on tablet right here, we want this stack vertical. So you can change it like this to vertical position and everything is automatically switched. Kind of similar to the grid that we saw, right? But here you have this relationship between these elements and it's pretty easy. Stack is a very, very easy tool. That's why we really suggest to use it a lot. And it helps you responsively to have everything organized. There we go. I'm just dragging things on stage. We get to mobile. That's where things become too small. We switch to vertical. It makes our section even bigger, and that's totally fine. And that's where we can also add the minimum or maximum size to our font element, the text elements, sorry. So I'm just going to show quickly how it works. It's basically having a text element on scale, right? It scales right now, so it will continue scaling. But if I want this to scale, but also have a minimum size, I would come here and say, let's do like 16 pixels on both titles. So now they have 16 pixels of minimum width. They will not go lower than 16 pixels, but they will continue scaling when I enlarge the screen size. All right, so you can see them scaling. So that's how you can use and benefit from the min-max font size. Any questions up until here? And I think we're almost out of time, right?
Yeah, we have about
Just about.
Okay.
5-6 minutes. And we do have some questions. We have quite a lot. And I was just like, I don't think we're gonna have time to. We're gonna have to make some decisions on. We want to go through the rest of our workshop / go to the questions. But really quick, some quick and easy ones. Actually, I'm gonna give you the hard one first. So we have Phasebox in our chat, or at least one of our chats, and they were asking, and I think there's a lot of questions around the responsive AI that we did a while back. And actually there was two options instead of one that I've seen recently. Basically their comment was, well, so you hit a button and it shuffles things around and you basically have to change everything yourself. And I think a lot of people have struggled with this too, and we've had workshop in the past where we do have the option to use responsive AI. But what are the best practices really? And you might have given them to us already. how do we set up our Figma file so that it is optimized the best way possible to bring things into Wix Studio with as little moving things around as possible? And even then, I'm sure we still have to move some things around. So that's a very loaded question, but what are your best practices for making sure that what you build in Figma pops out well in Wix Studio and allows you to make what you brought in responsive easily? Take that as you may.
Yeah, thank you. So I want to say that first of all, anything you bring into Wix Studio from Figma will start with the responsive behavior of scale proportionally. That's why we saw that everything was the desktop version on each breakpoint, just smaller and smaller and smaller, but with the same proportions. So until our plugin also supports mobile import and tablet import, which I know is kind of the biggest request of everyone. Until then, I'm going to give you tips on how to convert your design not to be desktop on all breakpoints, but to adjust it easily. First one is, I'm going to start with Figma. First is reduce the amount of frames and groups, especially groups that you have in Figma, because I've seen a lot of Figma files, a lot of Figma designs, and many of them have unnecessary hierarchies. So it's like a frame inside a group, inside a frame, inside a group, and you don't really need that. I know when you're designing and you're doing a lot of iterations, you're not necessarily following that. You don't see like what's happening in your layers panel. That's fine. Just make sure, take like 10-15 minutes before you're importing or exporting your design from Figma to Wix Studio to clean that up. All right, you don't need all that. And we, in the process, try to reduce the unnecessary elements and layers, but sometimes we don't do that perfectly. So to ease things up and have more control over your elements and which container is added, which container shouldn't be even a container, just do that beforehand in Figma, right? So think of it, plan ahead how you want your elements to be structured in Wix Studio. All right, so if you want elements to kind of be grouped together, make sure they're together. They are in a frame together or an auto layout together, that they're not just scattered around. That will help us and you. Help us to help you. So that's that's the kind of my main tip is to, first of all, clean up your Figma file before you export it. You'll see that there's a lot of layers which you can remove. Just right click and ungroup, right click, ungroup. Okay, that's pretty simple. Next is changing the responsive behaviors in Wix Studio. So when importing the styles at first, set your editing size to the same size as your design in Figma before you import those styles, because the size of the font will refer to this editing size, right? So this 126 pixels font size refers to this size. So any element which is connected to my heading 1 on this specific resolution will be 126 pixels. And from that point on, it will scale if it is a scaling size. That's leading me to my next tip is, if you don't want the scaling size, Jonathan, or you want to limit it. Yes.
I just want to pop in. So ladies and gentlemen on Instagram, because we're about to get kicked off because of the hour limit, I just dropped into the chat where we're going to be. But again, if you're on Instagram, put join in the chat. If you guys are accidentally on my personal Instagram that I accidentally went live with, you guys are going to have to go to Daily Web Design. I apologize for that. But if you guys are watching on Daily Web Designs or UI UX Daily Tips, put join in the chat. You'll join our community, and in the announcements there will be a link to where we are on YouTube, and we will be answering the rest of the questions up until Jonathan has to go, or he kicks us out of his makeshift office so he can enjoy the rest of his day. So with that being said, we're gonna log off here on Instagram. We still have a lot of questions to go through, but we're still live on YouTube, so please join us there. All right, just give us a second. We're gonna close out. So link in bio, put join in the chat, get an automatic DM. We'll see you over on YouTube.
This was so much fun, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, for sure, man. Okay, so let's allot, like, do you still have time, Jonathan? Or you got a
Yeah, I
hard,
have
you got a
a few
hard
minutes.
exit?
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay, so let's take the rest of the time to kind of go through some of these questions, and then we can skedaddle. Sound good?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, beautiful. Okay, so with that, okay, the next question that we have is, because we had our earlier question is, well, after I prototype, and I can't prototype to my heart's content in Figma and bring that into Wix Studio. How do I then deal with animations after I brought in my Figma file? I think you kind of showcased that a little bit in the beginning, where you simply just clicked on an element and just very quickly went to the, you know, the
animations tab.
yes, exactly. My
Yeah.
brain was frying. But if you just very quickly kind of just want to showcase how easy that is, or even just, you know, point out how you did what you did
Sure.
already.
So what I did was select an element which I want to be my trigger, to let me know that this element scrolled into viewport, and this will now trigger some other animation on maybe the same element or a different element. So I just selected on stage, move to this tab, which is animations and effects, and this is what you're going to land on. And here you have the scroll. You can click add, select the animated element which you want to animate, whether it's move or fade or scale even. So in my example, this was with the stack, and when I clicked on the stack, you have these presets like spin, blur, parallax effect, which is kind of nice, expand, slide, and a bunch of those things to have fun with, and then adjust animation, and that's where you kind of choose the direction. This panel depends on the preset you choose. In my case, it was move, so that's why I have here the angle I'm moving it to. So this is where you have the fun part and you play with.
Awesome. Yeah, I get this question a lot, and I think me and Cole get it a lot. When we constantly try. The reason we're showing you a lot of Wix Studio stuff, ladies and gentlemen, is because the way that the future is going, there's a lot of redundancy happening. There's a lot of people who are just building things that don't actually work on the internet, but in a Figma file, and it just sits on your computer. We want you to just get the visual portion down, pull it into Wix Studio so that you can start getting the complex animations that actually are alive, that you can publish, that other people can see on the internet, versus just laying on your computer that you know, you just show to your clients and it looks beautiful, you got some cool animations, but it does nothing but sit on your desktop. With that being said, so that's really the biggest incentive as to why you should be picking up Wix Studio, is because this stuff is living, it's not just in a file. Cole, let's flip-flop here. I'm gonna give my lips a little bit of breather. Does your side of the neck of the woods have any questions?
We had a lot kind of regarding general UI questions, which I kind of took care of, but not a ton specifically towards Wix Studio or anything that I should trouble
Perfect.
Jonathan with. So not a
Okay.
ton from my end. Yeah.
I've got Jonathan. You got time for two more?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
All right, we'll do two more. And ladies and gentlemen, if you did not get your questions answered, again, just go to newform.community. We have a ton of amazing people from the Wix team answering questions each and every day, as well as me and Cole's lovely face in there. So if it's not for Wix Studio, join for us. And sometimes Jonathan will be there. Come for him.
Well said.
All right. He's got a girlfriend, so don't get your hopes up. All right, so all right. There is a couple.
Yeah.
Gosh, this is serious stream, okay?
Stay focused, friend. Stay focused.
All right, staying focused. All right, we got 5 minutes. All right. So there was a couple questions on so there's components in Figma. And again, like we were saying, a lot of our people are Figma coming from there first and just learning how to bridge themselves over to Wix Studio. There was a question, I'm not sure if hopefully I'm asking this correctly, but will Wix Studio ever have master assets that function like the components in Figma? And I feel like there's kind of something like that already, but I'll let you kind of go into that.
Yes, so I'll answer that with 3 directions. First one was the one that I showed before, which is the global sections. And that's where you create one section, it's saved right here in this global sections panel. You have headers, footers, and you can also have regular sections. And then with right-clicking on this, add to, you can simply select on which page it appears on. So you can have kind of this play around with which section appears where. And when you edit one, it will automatically sync with others, just like a global component, but as a section. Second thing is assets which are not global, but you can save assets and reuse them. So you create it once, save it to your assets, which are saved right here. And it can be a section, it can be a container, it can be a stack, it can be whatever you want. Save them here and just simply drag them to your editor, and it simply creates it for you, all your elements, and even save the responsive behaviors. Now, this, for example, was not responsive, so it's just desktop. So you can reuse these, but they're not synced. So if you change one, it will not sync with the others. But this is a handy tool and saves a lot of time. You can also create libraries out of this, which have, for example, typography and colors. And if you see I hover over this, it shows me a preview of my existing website and how the styles of this library will look on my existing design. And then I can choose to apply or not. In this case, I won't. So that's the second option, to kind of reusing elements and components. Third option is creating your own widget. Now, you create the widget on Wix blocks, and that's where you can have a totally customizable widget. For example, your own FAQ, your own slider, your own slideshow, like very, very cool stuff, where you can connect code to it. And then use this widget on multiple websites, multiple pages, wherever you want. And when you update it, it will be pushed and be updated on all the instances you're using it in. Regular components, like if you want to have a container which is global, are still not supported in Wix Studio, but we know it's a big request, and we are looking into it. So yeah.
Awesome. All right, and last one, and then we'll let you go to bed. We have a question related to, and I think this is actually a good one. So let's say we actually have some functionality in the thing that we're trying to import from Figma to Wix Studio. We're talking sliders, we're talking input fields, we're talking maybe bullet points. How does one handle bringing that sort of it's not functional in Figma? You have to make it functional and actually rebuild it in Wix Studio, but you probably have a better answer for us.
I don't know if I have a better answer. You're right.
Oh boy.
You're right. These things are kind of the hardest parts for us to recognize and identify in Figma. So a lot of functional components that you want to be functional but are not functional in Figma, it's very hard and difficult for us to kind of create, first of all, gather all the elements that are related to this component and create something functional out of it. Because if I ask you guys to create a slider with pagination, I will see like 1,000 different designs, 1,000 different ways you created this slider. So that's why we currently don't support this import of functional components, except button, the one that I showed you. So buttons are created as an actual button. So if we go here, you can see that this is a button you can connect links to, change the text, and all the good stuff.
That's very cool.
And because we do know this issue and we are working hard to solve this, we would like to hear your feedback and suggestions. So feel free to reach out and give your 2 cents, and maybe it will help us, you know.
You heard it here first, guys. We need feedback, and the best way to give feedback is in the Newform community. That's newform.community. Join for all three of us, but mostly to learn how to use Wix Studio and make some cool things on the internet, guys. So Jonathan, we'll leave it there, man. I thank you so much for your time. I know it's been a long day for you. We're going to give you your time back, but thank you for the extension of 10-15 minutes and great laughter.
Yeah.
With that being said, is there any closing remarks that you have for our community and the people here today?
First of all, I want to say, guys, thank you. This was really fun. I was excited to show you all these cool things that we're working on. There are cool features we're planning ahead in the near future to be released, so stay tuned for that. It's also very interesting for me to see what you guys achieve with all those tools that we offer in Wix Studio. So share your websites. You might also get featured on our inspirational page. We have an inspiring websites page in Wix Studio where you can also see very, very cool examples of users sharing their websites with cool stuff. I was amazed. So share your websites, put them out there in the community, in the new forum, in the Facebook, wherever you want to spread it. So yeah.
Yes, sir. Just make it, guys.
Fantastic.
And just jumping off of that, do not forget about our challenge. We have a week left. It closes on the 23rd. Again, it is space exploration or just space theme. So definitely get in there. Try what you learned from the Figma to Wix Studio session today and kick some tail. All right, guys. My name is Brandon Groce.
My
This
name is
Cole
Jan.
and this is Jonathan. Oh, yep, yes, sir. I'll let you guys say your names. All right, and we're out, guys. Enjoy your day. Talk to you soon. See you in the community. Bye.
Bye-bye.